Good morning, you guys. I am so excited to be here for the Fit from Within Masterclass. And if you're joining, just let me know where you're tuning in from because I know I have people from all over the world that watch my channel. But today I'm so excited. I'm so pumped to just share my story a little bit, the fitness journey I've been on, and the spiritual work that I've been doing in my life. It's really transformed everything for me. And I wanted to talk about spiritual fitness today because I'm starting to make more content about it, but it's because I'm very, very passionate about it, right? And the goal of this masterclass, while we're together today for this hour, right, is the whole goal is to live a healthy life, right? And I want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about changing your relationship with fitness, your identity in fitness, right? How you show up in the gym, whether you decide to go to the gym or not, it really doesn't matter. But what today really is going to be about is about self-image and self-love because that's like the main thing that I've really honed in on the past 2 years is seeing myself differently, not only in the gym and fitness, but also my relationships, right? And just building this new idea of myself, but also holding space for that idea and then expressing that in the 3D. So today is all going to be about living a healthy life, self acceptance, and self love, creating a beautiful inner world, right? Because that's really what it's about. That's what all these spiritual concepts really point you back to, right? Is this idea that it all starts from within. And so that's why I found this title so fitting because wealth, fitness doesn't really matter what it is. It all starts from inside of you, right? So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about ease and effort, um, and kind of dismantling a lot of the patterning and programming when it comes to fitness and to the gym, right? Because I know a lot of people who are just fitness coaches, right? Like, I know the ideas, some of the things I might share today aren't going to resonate with everyone. So just keep in mind that not everything will resonate with you, most likely. But the things that do, just, like take them in and then discard everything else, right? Because I know some of the things I might say to a lot of people, if you're just getting into this work, it might seem controversial, right? Especially when it comes to what we've been taught to believe about fitness and your health and really being like that next level version of yourself, right? And what it takes to do that. So that's what the live is going to be about, right? But spiritual fitness, I wanted to define it, right? Spiritual fitness to me is inner transformation expressed through the body, right? It's this practice of creating a beautiful inner world, right? That expresses itself naturally on the outside. So I want to say this right now before we get any further. It's very important because you get to define what fitness looks like for you, right? You get to define what your health looks like, how you show up in your relationships, how you show up in every area of your life because you're the creator of your reality and because you have that God essence flowing within you, right? What you decide to be true will be true in your experience. And that's why we all have different experiences in life because we're all creating and selecting essentially, right, based off our belief systems and our assumptions and the things that we've accepted as true within us. So this masterclass, if you're looking for a way to lose weight, right, just kind of lose like 5 pounds, and that's really all you're looking for. This class isn't for you. This class isn't to go over the things to do in the 3D, the diets, the nutrition, all the things that everyone else tells you that you're supposed to do. This masterclass really isn't going to cover that. What it's going to cover is the energetics behind embodying this version of yourself that is healthy, that is just vibrant on the inside and on the out, right? So we're going to be talking about those things, especially the ease and the effort and the faith and the embodiment, because those are the pieces that if you pair it with all the things or you want to do in the 3D, right? Because again, there's no rules, right? And everyone has different fitness goals. So I can't sit here and tell you what to do. And I'm not going to, right? Because you create your reality. So, what I can tell you and what I can give you are the tools that will transform your life, not only in fitness, but in every other area. And you will just start to remember things that you know have always been true about yourself, right? These deep spiritual truths is what we're going to talk about today. Because physical transformation isn't about the outside, right? It's a piece of it, but it's not the full picture, right? It's not about just changing the body, but it's about changing the identity that also changes the body, right? And we're going to transform the person, experience the body. So that's what we're going to talk about. And again, I want to talk about what it's not, right? So it's not about also like idealizing beauty standards, right? Because of what I want to remind you guys today is that fulfillment starts from within. And this work, really, what we do is just an expression of that, you know? I don't want to make it seem like, you know, you can't be a certain body weight, right? Or you can't be a certain body fat percentage, or you must be these ideal standards to be successful, right? What we're going to learn today is that success starts within you. And I also want to talk about my story too, right? Just changing how I changed my relationship with fitness, how I stopped operating out of fear, and I started to just naturally express the love that was in me, right? And it's about not punishing yourself too, right? And having like this balance in your life that really will serve you for all the years to come in your life, right? It's not just about creating this beautiful athletic appearance. Again, that's part of it of what we're going to talk about today. But it's really about going within, creating and cultivating this inner sense of plenty, right? Within yourself. And then the body just being a reflection of that. Whatever your goal is, right? It all starts from within. So on my fitness journey, I just want to talk about this a little bit because I officially started in December of 2025. But I really didn't start to really lock in my identity until about late April. So it's been about 4 to 5 months of consistency, right? But this desire within me to just be a more athletic, more healthy, more vibrant, more in touch with source version of myself, right, started 5, 6 years ago. 2020 is when I really had the desire in my heart to, you know, look like at first it was just for vanity, right? And I'm not here to say like, you know, one reason to lose weight or to work on your fitness is better than another. But what I'm trying to say is there's different reasons, right? And the reason that I was using at the time was I was using fitness and transforming my body as a way to kind of make up for the lack that I felt within myself. And now I approach fitness, I approach nutrition, my identity, and how I see myself so differently, right? That all these things just amplify my life. They don't add to my life, right? And so, what spiritual fitness is not, is it's not like a fix all solution to your problems, right? Because like when you're hooked and when you're so dependent on the 3D and external validation, right? And chasing a measure of acceptance from society, from your family members, from your friends, right? Because you feel like that experience or that body will give you the sense of peace, the sense of relief, really, and not feeling judged, where you feel validated and seen, right? There's two different identities that you can approach fitness and you can approach the gym, right? And we're gonna really be talking about transforming the person, how I did that, right? And in turn, I did lose 35 pounds, right? So I started at 185 pounds in December, January, basically. And I stayed that weight until, again, probably about late April. Maybe I think I lost maybe 5 pounds, right? But the person I was becoming and what I was doing is I was changing how I saw myself, and how I did this was through my thoughts, right? How I did this was by changing my assumptions, focusing my imagination on, visualizing having my body, going to the gym, people complimenting on my body, really trying to immerse my senses and my internal senses, right? Hearing it through my inner speech, visualizing it, just kind of deciding and knowing it's done too. That was a big part of it. And just naturally embodying that in the 3D, right? So it was about moving out of fear and submerging myself in a new identity. And that's what I had to do. So I knew what I wanted, I knew my goals, and then, for instance, if it might help anyone, I'll tell you guys my goals. My goal was to lose or release, um, not even like a specific amount of weight. That's not really what I wanted. I just wanted a particular athletic, right? I wanted to feel good within my body. I wanted to change my relationship with foods and fitness and not like go to the gym and dread it, right? I really wanted to be someone who just felt great in their body because the place I was in last year, right? I was tied all over my body. I couldn't even like touch my toes, honestly, you guys. Just being so for real with you. Um, I was having all these digestive issues, all these like acid reflux, stuff like that. And I don't really go through that stuff often. So I knew like, if I didn't just start taking care of myself, like, how could I really, embody this work? Because here's the thing too, like I was changing so many areas of my life, my love life, my financial life, but my health, and just how I saw myself, right? And how I felt inside my body always felt like it was lagging behind. So it's not about, spiritual fitness is not about weight loss. It's not about getting to a number on a scale. Because when you do, even if you hit those targets or those goals, right? That's not where your fulfillment comes from. And if you think it is, then you're mistaken. And you might experience some short term fulfillment, right? But there's so much more. um, all your power lies within recognizing the fulfillment within yourself, tapping into that, you know, utilizing it, redirecting source energy, focusing it on something in your life and watching that grow and expand. And that's what I wanted to do in my fitness life. So before we really get started, um, I did forget this, so I want to kind of like go back a little bit. I want to start with a prayer and intention. This is going to be something new, but I really just wanted to kind of set the intention for today's live before we really dive in deep. And um, yeah, so I'm just going to kind of calm my mind for a second and then start from here. But yeah, I'm just intending that we all prosper from this live, this hour, this about 50 minutes that we're going to be together today. Um, and yeah, so we're going to go ahead with the intention or with the prayer. Dear God, thank you for being with us today in every present moment. Thank you for being us with us during this live. Please allow us to come together for the purpose of co-creation, um, and just recognize the wealth, the wellness. I'm sorry, the wellness that's already within ourselves, the vitality that already lives within ourselves, and help people step into the best version of themselves through embodying these concepts. And just allow your grace and your wisdom to flow through each one of us. Allow the viewers who might be watching this live or catching the replay, ensure them that, they are meant to hear this message, that God is working through them at all times, is them at all times, is animating everything at all times. So please just allow everyone to receive the guidance and the wisdom and allow me to be a light to shine to them. Maybe, give them some clarity on some things that they might have today about their body and allow them to recognize the truth of who they are. I'm setting the intention, God, that this video, this live stream, this replay is a portal to your most abundant, your most vital, your most healthiest timeline where you feel complete, not just on the outside, but also on the inside. And allow these concepts and allow these words, God, today to just marinate and sit with the people who need to hear them and allow it to transform them from the inside out. So thank you, God, today for today's live. Thank you for this present moment. Amen. Whew, that was amazing. That was so beautiful. And it just reminds me, like, you know, we feel like in that moment, I kind of, you know, I started to overthink, right? And instead of just kind of like trusting my intuition, which is what we're going to also talk about today, like, you can kind of get sucked into the logical thinking. So that was kind of happening in that moment, but I just recentered myself and really set the intention for this live. So um, I know I might not say things perfectly, but again, um, you know, it's not about performing, right? Spiritual fitness is expressed through the body, right? Again, it's the practice of creating in a world that is going to just naturally like reflect on the outside, right? So I like to say this work is 95% God and 5% physical. And I know that's backwards from a lot how a lot of people teach it. They teach that, it's what you do as far as the actions, it's what you put your body, it's the mechanics of it, right? And what I want to teach you guys today is that there is an effortless way to fitness, to nutrition, to showing up, to, your relationship with really everything in your life. But when it comes to fitness, right, it doesn't have to constantly be this hustle and grind. So the outer world wants you to believe, right? Society wants to believe that it's the training, it's the nutrition, it's the habits, it's how you carry yourself. And it's not about ignoring physical action. It's not about pretending that, your body doesn't in this moment might not look a certain way or you might not be where you want to be in the observed world, right? And it's not about like visualizing and doing nothing, right? That this work really manifestation is I am in action. It's I am being expressed in infinite number of ways. So if your desire, right, if you're here, then you obviously must have a desire within you to be more vibrant, to be a more connected to source kind of person within your body, and also within your mind, right? Just also like having this sharpened mind, having this discipline within yourself. That's not just about, how many reps you do or, logging your calories or doing all the 3D things, right? 95% of it starts in consciousness. It starts with God. It starts with your awareness. And then the 5% physical, yes, that's actually what you do, right? So that's you being in a caloric deficit. And that's you, actually showing up and doing all the the little micro adjustments that you can do, right? So increasing your protein, it just really depends on what your goals are. So I really want to speak for my goals. So again, my goals was to get to 13 to 14% body fat and not even be at a specific weight, right? Just to have like this um certain appearance, right? So I wanted broad shoulders, I wanted a V taper, I wanted, you know, my body to look a certain way, and there's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, it's not necessarily what your goals are, right? Because again, you guys, like, fitness and transformation all starts from within, and because you create your own reality, right? You get to decide what that looks like for you. So if you desire to be at a higher body fat percentage, I'm not one to sit here and tell you that that's not, for you, or that's not that's not the highest expression of yourself, right? So I'm not going to say, that, oh, the highest expression of yourself is to be at this weight or to be at this body fat or to have abs or to look this way, right? That's for you to decide, you to kind of come up with this idea of yourselves of what it means to be fit and what it means to be athletic and what it means to feel good, right? So it's not about visualizing and doing nothing. We still want to put intention into things, right? But when you start to understand that action equals expression, action equals expression, right? What does that mean? It means that you're always taking action, right? Whether you sit at home all day watching Netflix, eating crumble, right? Like that's expression, that's action. You're expressing the state of consciousness that you're in, right? So it's the same thing with the gym. And fitness and going to the gym, right, can be effortless and it can be easy. But what does effortless mean? Effortless doesn't mean doing nothing, right? Effortless means less effort. So we can express more easily who we really are, who we truly are on the inside, right? So we still do the physical work, but we're changing the person doing the work. We're changing the version of ourselves that we're identified as and that we're showing up as. Right. So that's why I said it's different from how a lot of people teach it. Right. They teach that once my body changes, I'll feel different about myself. But what I'm saying is it starts from within. Right. It's an inside out change. So I change from within. I change my assumptions. I change who am I identifying as. And then my choices, my health, my body, how I feel, how I show up just naturally changes along with that, right? So it starts 95% within your consciousness. So what are you going to do? Right? You're going to change your relationship with fitness. This is what I did, right? 95% of it started within changing the beliefs in real time, right? In real time, embodying, and that's what embodying is. Embodying to me is changing your beliefs, showing up in real time, choosing that version of yourself, like declaring that version of yourself, proclaiming that you already are who you want to be in real time. So in an instant you act from that decision of that version of yourself that is already experiencing what it's like to have a healthy body, right? What it's like to love yourself, to accept yourself. So that started within a change within my consciousness, within an awareness that, okay, like first it started off as, okay, maybe I could be this. Maybe I could have a body like this, right? Maybe I could. I'm not saying I can, but like, you know, I've seen other people do it. Maybe I could do it. So that's where we start, right? We start in like this kind of like this hopeful, optimistic place. That's where a lot of us start at. And so we actually start to we sign up for the gym, right? We go to the gym, we get new shoes, we you know, like find a workout buddy. We do all these things cuz we're pumped, right? And I've been there. Like I said, I've been like off and on going to the gym for 6 years. So every year almost I was like, yeah, my New Year's resolution was I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to lose 20 pounds. You know what I mean? I'm finally going to have abs for almost 6 years in a row. So, what made this time different? What changed my relationship with the gym? What changed my relationship with nutrition? Why do I love eating whole foods now when before it felt like restriction? The piece was the change in my consciousness. It was how I was mentally identifying first within myself. And people are trying to change the outside. They're trying to change their action first without changing the identity behind the action. And so that's why it's so short-lived and people just revert back to their dominant identity because deep down the assumption is that this shit's hard or I'm not the person that can have that deserves this kind of body or can hold this kind of body. It's not even about the body, but it's like what it looks like on the outside, but it's also about on the inside, right? Like so many people have normalized pain, right? And because they have so much pain within them from repressed emotions or trauma or whatever it is, right? That they don't even believe that health is available to them, that healing can be instant, that they can heal their body and their soul with their mind, right? So it changed within how I started to see myself. I started to see myself as someone who, again, could be that person. But once I started to do it, once I started to really embody this work, I started to see like I can be that person now. I actually am already that person now. And I'm looking in the mirror, you guys, and I got this and that, right? I'm not looking my best. In fact, that was the worst place I've ever been in my life as far as like physical appearance wise, right? But I was like, no, like I don't care that I look like this now. I know who I am. I know that this fit version of me that shows up, that is consistent, that is disciplined, that loves um, just challenging himself and feeling good. And you guys, like now I can touch my toes. And I know that's so like crazy, but if you know me, right, you know that I've always kind of like had tight muscles. And for me to be able to do that, just was so amazing. And it kind of like felt even better than achieving the body because I'm like, yo, I feel so strong, you know? I feel so fucking healthy and I love it. And it fuels your motivation. It just reinforces this identity, right? But I'm still experiencing, I'm still learning this and I keep expanding. So, I could watch this like a year from now and feel completely different. But I just wanted and I had to decide for myself, like, I am worthy of a body that looks amazing to me, right? And again, that's different to everyone, but to me, I know what I want. I know what I want my body to feel like. I want it to feel like relief. I want it to feel like ease. I want it to feel strong. I want it to feel vibrant, and I had to shift that. I want it to feel that it already feels this way. It already is this way. I am this person. I am consistent, right? I make commitments to myself and I keep them. I'm gonna tell you something. Like if I was to do a live masterclass like this a year from now, I can't promise you guys I would have even attended it. I could have made the thumbnail, done everything, like promoted it, talked about it in my videos, right? And then not show up. And why is that? Because back then, and still sometimes the belief will start to creep up, right? That it's not safe to be seen. No one would buy from you. You're wasting your time. You stumble over your words all the time. So, like you're a mess on camera. That's what I would have told myself and I wouldn't have showed up. But because I keep expanding, because I keep pushing the limits of what is possible for myself and how I've been and how I've operated, and because I don't let what has happened or the stories of my past define me, that's how I'm able to show up as this version of myself now, right? So the 35 pounds that I released, it's something you can see, right? But some of the biggest changes are, some of the things you can't. So the gym became normal. I stopped negotiating with um, myself in a lot of ways, right? I stopped putting off going to the gym. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I work 9 to 5s for basically all my life, as an adult, um, until now. So, like, I'm able to now kind of like go to the gym and make it a priority. But before, like, if it wasn't on my way home from my job, like, oh, you could forget me even going, right? And I would say I would want to go, but I would never actually keep that commitment within myself for myself, right? But now I do. And why do I do it? Because I enjoy progressing, because I've formed this belief within myself that every day I get stronger, right? That this is actually setting me up for success because, when I do decide to have kids, I'm going to be able to be there for them. I'm going to be able to show up as the best version of myself for my kids and my family, right? And just like have a beautiful, healthy vehicle, right? Because that's what our bodies are. They're vehicles for our spiritual essence, you know. But it's an expression of physical reality as well. So it's I do look at our body in a lot of way like a car, you know. We get to mod it, we get to change it, we get to add nice rims or tint the windows, whatever we want to do, right? We get to make it our own, but it also matters about what's on the inside, your belief systems, right? That's the engine, you know? And if you got all these limiting beliefs on how you see yourself, and you're this kind of person because of your past, you know what I mean? And you've never been consistent, so why would anything be different now, right? And you've always been 300 pounds. So how could you ever get to this weight, right? Whatever it is, it's about recognizing that that experience is available to you, right? But it's about coming back to the truth of who you are. And this fulfillment lives within you, right? So I stopped seeing the gym as something I had to do, and I started to just go because more and more it felt natural, right? If I'm telling myself all day, I'm fit, I'm athletic, I feel the best I've ever felt in my body. Um, I am healthy, I'm vibrant, I'm successful, right? It just felt normal to start going. Same thing with nutrition. I stopped seeing foods as something that had to be restricted. Before when I was on diets, yeah. Oh my God, I hated it. I hated it. I'd be so hungry like 3 weeks into it, right? Because back then I was saying, oh, I'm on a diet. I can't eat this. I'm on keto, so I can't have any carbs. I can only have 50 grams of carbs, whatever, right? Now I don't have restrictions. I eat whatever I want. And it's not to say like, oh, I'm not mindful of what I intake because I am. I'm very mindful of what I consume and put in my body and how much I put in my body. Right. But it's not from a place of micromanage. It's not from a place of restriction or it has to be this way. Otherwise, I'm not this person or I don't have this thing or I'm not going to get it right. I do what I love. I do what feels good. I do what lights me up inside. So it's about learning what supports my goals, but also what supports the identity, right? But not forcing yourself to like be this puzzle piece in this puzzle, right? It's not like forcing the outside world to be different, so right, so you can feel different. There are imperfect days that I have, right? But I don't even call them that. You know what I call them? I call them reset days. I call them calibration days. I know that you know, doesn't matter what I have, that nothing erases my progress, that I am my own progress. Like my progress begins with me. And the moment I decide that I'm progressing, I'm progressing. The moment I'm deciding I'm not progressing, I'm not progressing. Because what I decide to be true gets to be true, gets to be my experience. And I think that has actually what has given me more consistency, right? And how I show up more and more because I know, okay, even if in every moment, like I fall short, sometimes I miss the mark of who I want to be, right? And I buy into the fear-based programming so I don't show up in the way I want to, or, I say I do have an imperfect day and I kind of beat myself a little bit more than I should, right? It's just about remembering, okay, I'm already fulfilled, and the whole reason why I'm doing this transformation is so that I can just naturally be this expression of who I felt, who I know to be on the inside, right? It's an expression of self-love. This work is an expression of self-love. And you have to ask yourself, are you operating out of love or are you operating out of fear? Right? Is there a fear of gaining weight? Is there a fear of, losing progress? Are you afraid of food? What is it? I know for me, it was missing workouts. You know, I thought if I missed one workout, and this is how I operated before years passed, right? If I missed one workout, right, then it was all over, right? Or if I didn't hit my protein goal to 150 grams a day on the dot, if I didn't hit that, then I would revert all the way back, right? It's constantly checking, constantly asking yourself, am I doing enough? Am I doing this right, right? Trying to fix yourself. What I do now is I ask myself, am I moving toward my vision, right? Or am I running away from myself? Because here's the thing, you guys, you can love yourself and change. You can accept the self that you are now, but also have a vision. You can appreciate your body, but you can also improve it. And you can decide, like, no matter what I look like, I'm already perfect. I'm already healthy. I'm already vibrant, right? You don't have to hate yourself and hate where you are, right? You can love yourself and love who you are and also choose where you're going. You can choose the original state, the original vibration, which is love, right? And you can focus on that and you can choose that, right? Because both are states. Love and fear are both a state. And what is so beautiful too is health is a state. That's what I'm trying to say. It doesn't necessarily start with what you look like. What we're going to do is we're going to just like tap in to the fulfillment that we already are, that self-love that already exists within us, right? And what that is going to do is that is going to actually motivate you, you know? It's actually going to, when you operate out of love, you just kind of vibrate to this like super, super high level of yourself, right? When you choose to love yourself, when you choose to accept yourself for who you are today, but also you imagine yourself greater, because it's not about being complacent, right? Because what we are, we're expansive being, you guys. We're eternal beings having a human experience. So we're not meant to just stay at one level of consciousness and not evolve and expand, right? I'm always expanding, I'm always growing, right? You can appreciate what you have, but also be in expectancy of more. So that's the energy that I want you guys to do, but I want you to do it out of love. I don't want you to do it out of fear or shame or guilt, right? Or punishment. We're going to do it out of creation, out of love, out of joy, out of, just knowing that everything starts from within, right? It doesn't start from your parents. It doesn't start from the external validation. It all starts from within. It starts from who do you believe you are, right? So what usually happens is we have an experience and then we have a story from that experience, right? So there's a story whenever you experience something in life, right? There's a story that gets formed from that experience. And when you have enough story, a collection of stories, what that does is that translates into an identity. And so from that identity, you have behaviors, you have actions, you have expressions of the consciousness that you're in, right? And then what that does is that creates more evidence in reality. So it's like this perpetual feedback loop, right? So for instance, let's say the experience and the story is I've struggled with my body, right? I've been 300 pounds and I can never seem to get, underneath 300 pounds. And Because of that, because of my weight, I'm unsuccessful. Because of my weight, no one chooses me, no one loves me. Um, this and that, right? So because they've struggled with their body, because that's been their experience, their identity now says, and the story is that I'm someone who struggles with my body, right? Or I haven't been consistent, right? I never meet my the standards I set for myself, right? So therefore, I'm the kind of person who's inconsistent, right? So it's about recognizing though that all those are stories, and if everything is a story, if everything is just a narrative that you're in agreement with, right? Then it only defines you, and that's only your story if you continue to allow it to be, right? The past only defines you if you let it. Because if we're in one big eternal moment, you guys, then at any moment you can choose different, you know? That was just one past that you experienced out of an infinite number of past, right? So it's the same thing with your body, right? The mirror can show you your body, it cannot tell you who you are, because who you are is perfection, who you are is fulfillment, what you are is wholeness, completion, right? Awareness, beauty, grace. So it's not about what the mirror is showing you. It's about how are you feeling on the inside, right? Who are you resonating with on the inside? What have you been saying I am to? What have you been declaring? What have you been resonating with as far as beliefs go, right? Are you resonating with the belief that the gym's hard, that you can never show up, that you're not consistent, right? That you're lazy, that you're undisciplined, you always fall off? I do want to answer a question. MDiana, how did you apply this to love? Well, with love, I actually just got engaged. With love, it's really kind of the same thing, but it starts with self acceptance and self discovery. Discovering this for yourself, and um, just kind of like pouring into yourself. That's really what I did. Was I poured into myself, and I stopped putting my value and my worth into someone, into an experience, into a relationship. Because even I know now, like I have this beautiful, incredible relationship, right? But that person was never the source of my fulfillment, and that always come from within. And so that's what I'm really teaching you guys. Even with fitness, it's the same thing, or money, right? It all comes from within. The experience in life is just flowing through you, and it's operating through you, right? And it's being expressed in real time. Everything is a reflection. Even this live is a reflection of your consciousness, right? That's why people will watch this live and they'll all get different meanings and messages, because we're all at different levels of understanding, right? So when it came to my love life, it was about changing my thoughts and changing my beliefs and changing who I identified as in love, right? So I used to have a self concept and a story that says I wasn't chosen, that love is hard, that love is something to be fought for, that love is chaotic, right? And I used to settle a lot. So when I started to love myself truly, and not just say, oh, I love myself, oh, I love myself, but my actions started to actually reflect, right? So I started to get away from the people that were bringing me down, and it wasn't even like the people, because that's like placing the blame outside of you, but like at the same time, like I had to disidentify with the circumstances and the people I was around and all these things um in my life, and be like, you know what, I'm better than this. Like, I'm not saying I'm better than anyone, but I deserve more, right? Like if I'm saying I'm chosen, I'm saying I'm loved, like would that version of me keep like settling in this relationship and just staying with someone because you've been together 5, 6 years, right? Thank you. This feels like a safe space, but I know it's actually not. Yeah. Start telling yourself, love is love, and you are love. You are God expressed. So your natural state is love, and therefore you shouldn't feel ashamed or you shouldn't repress anything. But I've been, I mean, I get it. I know so many people have that experience. But just see yourself in a happy relationship already, and I know you say, like, "I don't know who I would be in a happy relationship," but I can assure you what you'll probably feel is a sense of relief. It's a feeling of feeling seen, feeling validated, feeling chosen, right? That's really the experience that you're looking for, and you can give that experience to yourself. And yes, like, you can also manifest a relationship and that be a reflection of it, right? But again, we're gonna start within, and we're going to see experiences and things in our external reality reflect that change in consciousness, right? So what we're going to do when it comes to our body though is we're going to create the person. We're not going to just create our body, right? So we're not going to just decide what it looks like. We're going to embody what it would feel like, right? So you have to ask yourself, who is your ideal self when it comes to fitness, right? How does that version show up? How do they feel about themselves? How do they treat their body? What's their relationship with food? Um, you know, if they're training, what's the relationship with training? Are they resting? Like sleep's a big thing, you guys, and in this busy culture that we have sometimes, like we forget to rest. And we forget to recharge, right? And we're gonna have days where we're human, right? And so we might miss, workouts. We might, not always be able to 100% show up in the way that we want to, right? But it's about creating the identity in that person and giving yourself grace in that process, right? Because what we're not going to do is we're not going to just create this ideal standard for ourselves and feel like we have to attain and meet the standard. And if we don't meet the standard by a certain amount of time, then we're not worthy or we're not valuable, right? What we're gonna do is we're gonna just decide, okay, the version of myself that's fit, that's for me it was shredded, fit, shredded, healthy, vibrant, right? How do I feel about themselves? I'm probably waking up, I'm probably enjoying my life, I'm probably moving my body, right? I'm getting tons of rest. I'm putting whole foods in my body just because it feels good, right? How do I treat my body? Well, obviously, I love my body. You know, I shower with love. I tell it good things. I take care of it. I groom it when I want to groom it. I give it, any kind of self care and self love when I feel like it needs self care and self love, right? So doesn't just, it's not just about creating a body. It's about creating the person who naturally inhabits the body, right? And since I've set the standard for myself and since I've grown and expanded to be this version of myself, right? Like I show up now because I naturally just believe I am this person. But it didn't start that way. It first started in my inner world. So we're going to create a beautiful inner world. We're going to change our thoughts, we're going to change our assumptions, we're going to change, our internal conversations, our expectations. We're going to start to use our imagination in ways that we haven't used it before. We're going to start to see ourselves differently, and we're going to start to identify with different thoughts, which is kind of what you're doing anyway, because we're all kind of like identifying with different states, different thoughts at different times, right? All throughout the day. So it's just about being aware. Okay, like, am I telling a negative story about myself and about fitness and about my body? Right? Is that the thought I'm identifying with? Or am I identifying with this new story that I'm perfect, that I'm fulfilled, that I'm healthy, that I'm whole, uh, you know, that I'm an embodiment of this work, that I am God expressed, right? So think of like when we say inner world, it's not just something we say, like think of it like a home. right? If your inner world was a physical place, would you want to live there, right? If you're telling yourself negative thoughts all day long, negative stories why you can't do something, why you can't show up, why you can't be fit, why you can't lose the weight when you obviously have a desire to, right? Would that be like that'd probably be a depressing ass house, you know? I wouldn't want to live there. The wall's about to come down. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna rebuild our home. We're gonna build it from the inside out. We're gonna give it love. We're gonna give it affection. We're gonna give it attention. We're gonna start to focus our mind on expecting good things, expecting blessings, knowing miracles happen daily inside our body and outside, right? It's not about never being insecure, and it's not about pretending, it's not about suppressing your thoughts, right? But it's about loving yourself, trusting yourself, respecting yourself, showing up for yourself when you tell yourself that you're going to show up, right? We want to push ourselves, but we don't want to burst the envelope, right? We don't want to push ourselves so much like in the gym where we're hurting ourselves, where we're in pain. But we want there to be enough tension where there's growth, right? Because in pure comfortability, that's where sometimes like we get comfortable and we don't want to change, right? But when you just push the envelope, not burst the envelope, right? That there's that beautiful spot where change happens because you start to build this idea of yourself and actually become it, right? We're not going to just build this version of ourselves in our head and like hold it as a mental thought. What we're going to do is we're going to build this version of ourselves and this idea of ourselves that actually exists in reality. What we're going to do is we're going to take that, we're going to embody it. We're going to do it with love, though. We're going to do it with faith. We're going to do it with confidence, with wholeness, with patience, right? But with expectancy that it's going to work out, with expectancy and knowing and declaration and conviction that I already am this person, right? So we're going to create an internal home of plenty, of health, of success, right? Because success is not determined by the external, it's not determined by the results that you get, right? That's just a byproduct of the state of consciousness that you're in, right? So for instance, my numbers and my logs, because I do track my when I show up at the gym, right? I track my reps and stuff, right? So I know that like I'm getting stronger, or my reality shows me that I'm getting stronger, but I've already created that belief within myself that every day I get stronger. Every day my body adapts no matter what. So we're not just going to imagine what we want our body to be like, but we're going to ask ourselves, okay, what if it was true? What if I already was perfect, was whole, was complete, which you are, right? But what if I felt that way? What if I showed up that way? What if I showed up as the best version of myself for my family and for the people around me? What if I was a light for myself, right? We're gonna start to operate in the world and start to look at life and our reality through that lens, right? So this is where I want you guys to kind of do an audit with yourselves, right? What are you feeling? What are you rehearsing, right? What are you expecting? What conversations within yourself are you repeating? What are you mentally rehearsing? And then when you notice that, okay, I'm probably not like focusing on the best version of myself that already assumes that they're healthy and fit, right? And I'm telling a story that probably isn't serving me right now. And I'm stuck in the fear-based patterning and programming, right? We're just going to ask ourselves when we notice that, what do I want to experience instead? And then what we're going to do is we're going to redirect our mind. What happens when we redirect our mind and our consciousness is we redirect source energy. Because no matter what you place your attention on, God's like, okay, that's where we're going, right? You can complain about how hard it is to show up in the gym, to meet your fitness goals, right? Okay. So that's what God says, okay, that's what you're focusing on. That's where we're going. And that's what I'm going to give you more evidence of. But why would we do that? Right? Because fitness can be easy, it can be effortless, it can be magical, it can be beautiful. It doesn't have to be struggle and hustle, right? It's about allowing yourself to just naturally be this expression and flowing towards that, right? It's not about forcing yourself to show up, but it's about, returning to your decision, returning to this identity. Okay, this is who I am now. So this is who I am now. Like, wouldn't that version of me just love to show up at the gym and love to put whole foods in their body? Right? Not saying you have to, not saying you have to like show up in that way or do, a certain workout routine or go to the gym this many times a day, right? But it's about, okay, what does health look like for me? And how can I embody that? How can I tap into that and allow source energy, allow God to animate through me and express just this way of being, right? And when it lights you up inside, that's how you know it's for you, right? That's how I knew that, like, okay, it's not just like some vanity thing that I want. It's not because I'm looking for external, people to give me all this validation because I'm conventionally attractive now, or now I have a nice body, right? Of course I want my body to look amazing on the outside, but like I'm just not dependent on any of that anymore. And I give myself grace. I love myself probably more than I ever have. And I love what I look like on the outside, but it really did start from the inside, you guys. You know. But when we think about the gym and what a lot of people, a lot of the narrative is out there is that it needs to be hard. It has to be harder, right? Like you have to earn it. You got to deserve it. And I just don't believe that no more because ease is natural expression. Ease is God in action. Think about the universe. I mean, think about just how effortless and how abundant nature is, right? And how easily life is just always flowing through us, right? And to us and just the abundant quality of nature, right? Things are supposed to be easy. The workout can be hard. Again, you can push the envelope, right? We don't want to be in pain. We don't want to like, oh damn, I missed my workout, so now I gotta like I can't eat anything or I have to like cut my calories in half, right? That's fear-based patterning and programming that starts to creep up, right? Because now you're putting some external standard that lives outside of yourself, and you're basically worshiping that. It's about going back to knowing, okay, no, I've already decided I'm healthy and I'm fit, and that you know this identity and this change of consciousness is just easy and it's effortless, right? So effort can exist in the action while ease exists in your relationship, right? So both can coexist, but it's not about forcing yourself. It's not about fighting yourself. It's not about punishing yourself, right? Or saying, I have to do this. No, let's loosen the grip. Let's support our vision. Let's just express who we already are. Let's express the perfection and the wholeness that lives within us. And I assure you, you guys, when you do that, when you tap into that, and when you already just feel like, damn, I'm already incredible. My body's already incredible. You will start to want to do things just naturally. You're like, wow, like actually I love doing this now. Like that's how it was for me. I hated going to the gym before, you guys. That's why I was off and on 6 years. You think I liked it? No, I hated it. But this version of me loves it and has always loved it. What I did is I shifted my consciousness from the version of me that identified with, this all this shit's hard, you know, or like, I needed to meet and beat this standard of beauty. No. No, I do it out of love. I do it out of just knowing like this is I am God expressed, right? This experience of changing my body is being is meant to be experienced by me, right? Because I desire it, because it lights me up inside, because I'm even making this masterclass on it, because I know that these concepts work. It's what's allowed me to release 35 pounds. And my body looks completely different, right? But I had to believe in myself and believe in my vision long enough and hold that vision. And I didn't do that through force. I didn't do that, you know, by beating myself up, by shaming myself. No, what I did was I challenged myself. I returned to my decision. I supported my vision with every little thing that I could, right? That reinforced the identity that this is just who I am now. That fitness is easy. It's something I love to do, right? And that identity creates ease, right? So at first it kind of will, right? It can feel like negotiation, but eventually it just becomes okay. Like, this is just what I do now. And it becomes a second thought. That's how habits are formed, right? Is habits, the way I like to see them, they're like little, you know, they're little votes to this new identity or this new idea of yourself, right? So sometimes it can feel at first when you're putting the first few votes in there that it's constant mental effort, right? But those choices begin to feel familiar. So we're doing the same actions, right? But we're doing it from a different state of consciousness. We're doing it from an empowered version of ourselves, from empowered beliefs, and we're making it natural. So the unfamiliar will start to feel familiar, right? It'll start to feel normal. It'll start to feel natural. The more you do it, the more you return to that state of consciousness. So when you get an old thought, what are you going to do? You're going to return. When you have a bad day, you're going to return. Yeah, it's powerful. When you miss a workout, you're going to return. You're going to say, okay, that was in that present moment. Well, what do I choose in this present moment? Oh, yeah, I choose the version of me that's consistent, that's disciplined, that loves showing up at the gym, right? That is already beautiful and incredible on the inside. Let me just like express that on the outside, right? Let me take care of my body. Let me make it strong because I believe and I'm worthy and deserving of a beautiful body inside and out, right? So it's not about never leaving the state because sometimes we are gonna, you know, like switch between states sometimes and go back to that fear-based and programming, patterning and programming, right? But again, it's a mindset. It's a muscle, right? It's a skill set that you develop. It's about becoming increasingly skilled at returning to your decision. And this is what's so beautiful about discipline, right? Discipline means the loving act of training and returning. So we're going to train our mind, we're going to train ourselves and redirect our consciousness and our awareness to the version of ourselves that we want to be. That really we already are. We're just remembering it, right? So that's what spiritual fitness is about. It's about remembering the perfection that you already are and just being that. I mean, I've said it a million times already, but it's so important, right? It's so important. And there, the I want to talk about faith and embodiment real quick because there was like this little period um, during this journey that I had about a good month where I kind of reverted back to the old identity, right? Where I wasn't walking by faith. I was walking by sight. I was walking about what I could see in the mirror, you know. So I was basing my worth and my value, my validation on a number, right? Because at that time, like I was doing all the things, right? I was even changing my mindset, changing my beliefs about food, and all that, and I still wasn't seeing any changes in the external, right, in the beginning. So the scale hadn't moved, the mirror hadn't changed enough, right? My progress just felt slow. And there was a couple weeks where I kind of just was like, you know what? I give up. This isn't for me. I guess I'm not supposed to have it. I guess, I'm just, always going to be like always going to have the body I have now, right? So I was taking the evidence, right? And because of the evidence, when I was witnessing and experiencing my 3D, right? I was creating and I was aligning with that identity. I was creating identity that says that, this isn't available to me. This isn't who I am, right? But what actually I did, um, because I did kind of get in that trap, but what I did, I was like, you know what? Wait a minute. Like, I just need to return to who I said I was, right? I've already decided that I am this person, right? And here I am falling for the trap that I haven't seen progress. I haven't seen evidence that this is working. So let me just give up, right? And I was like, wait a minute. I can just redecide, right? Just because I see evidence of something doesn't mean that this is who I am, right? Evidence is not identity. We don't need to ask the mirror for permission to be who we've already decided to be. That's so powerful. And when I made that decision, you guys, and when I just decided again, like, no, this is what I've decided. Since then, I've been so consistent. Like 99% consistent in that journey, in my journey, right? But I had to recognize that I always have a choice, right? And I wasn't walking by faith, right? I was doubting God and I was doubting the source within me, you know? Instead of just trusting that God is driving this thing, right? I'm just following, I'm just in the like the I'm passenger princess for the ride. Like that's how I feel now, because I know that God is animating is working through me, is animating me at all times, and I'm just witnessing what it's like, right? To have such an amazing, incredible body. But I had to ask myself, okay, who am I? What have I decided in consciousness, right? Do I want to keep identifying with these things, with these limitations? No. Okay, so I have to stop. I have to stop putting my attention on them. I have to stop focusing on them. I have to start telling a new story despite still seeing evidence of the old story. When I did that and when I walked with faith, showed up with faith, embodied this work with conviction, that's when things changed. It was the state of consciousness that I was operating from, right? I was operating from fear, I was operating from limitation. But the only limitation was in my mind, was me. It wasn't on external reality, right? It was on myself. I said I wanted a certain standard for my life, but I wasn't showing up for it because for a while I didn't truly believe that I deserved it, right? Or that I could accomplish it. But I could, and I did, and I loved it. But I had to ask myself, okay, what do I identify with? What am I ready to stop identifying with? What am I choosing now? You know, who am I no longer willing to identify as? That was big for me because I couldn't keep showing up in the as the version of myself that I was, right? Because it was just gonna it was a downhill slope, right? Because I was becoming more disconnected, more disempowered, you know, more closed off from source, right? And the moment that I remembered who I was, my source, my power, that my consciousness is creating, that the way I see myself in relationship to fitness and to the gym, right, will be my experience. And that's how other people will see me, right? But it was never about other people. It was never really even about what my body looked like. Did I want my inner world and my outer world to match? Yes, of course. And I love that it does now. But I had to create it from within and I had to let it express without. So that's what I wanted you guys to really understand today is that, you know, it was about how I saw myself and coming up with this identity, really getting specific on what it meant to me to be healthy and fit. Because again, it's all different for everyone. Coming up with that, formulating the idea myself, holding space for the idea myself, but allowing myself to embody it every day. And knowing that I'm really not becoming anything. I'm just returning and reselecting the version of myself that has always existed within consciousness, right? It's aligning my thoughts and my feelings and my actions and my behaviors to that version of myself or to that timeline, right? And it's about understanding that it was never about effort or force, but it was about ease, it was about flow, it was about giving up the struggle, right? And just claiming something with authority and radical conviction and belief that I've never had before. And that's really what it takes, you guys. It's showing up in ways that you've never before. It's believing something about yourself that others would dare to believe. And I just want to leave you guys with that. I hope that this live really changed your perspective about some things, really gave you some insight on really what it means to be fit inside and out. It's not just about your body, but it's about your ability to remain persistent in your internal world, right? To trust your internal world more than what evidence would show you on the outside. And that's where the faith and that's where the embodiment piece comes in. But when you put it all together, it's really powerful. So I love you guys. I appreciate every one of you. And I will see you guys soon. Y'all have a beautiful afternoon, morning, or evening, wherever you're at. And I'll see you soon. Sending infinite love.